amendments. And I also hope that the government side if the government side is serious about extending the right to live in a healthy environment to all Canadians, that it will support my bill, the Canadian Bill of Environmental Rights, to extend and strengthen that right to the entire federal mandate. Thank you.
The honourable member will have 5 minutes of questions and comments after question period. Statements by members, déclaration de députés. The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, small businesses are at the heart of our communities, and their owners are the dreamers and the doers that keep our economy strong. Whether it be the local cafe that brews that perfect cup of coffee or the family store downtown, small businesses create an invaluable sense of community. Richmond Hill owes a great debt of gratitude to our resilient small businesses for their continued perseverance. And on Canada's 43rd Small Business Week, I'm proud to acknowledge Richmond Hill's local shops, but also recognize the hardship that they have faced and adapted to in light of the pandemic. During the summer, I had the pleasure of visiting over 15 small businesses, mostly led by inspiring women leaders. Naib Restaurant and Mexican Amigos, we heard your concern over funding for growth. Zarsima Salon, Botiba Boutique, and Diva Academy, we heard your struggles adjusting the price of your services due to inflation. These are the realities of many small businesses, and our government heard them loud and clear. So this week, we celebrate our unique small businesses and the incredible people behind them, and we once again recommit to supporting them as long as it takes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, I want to also wish a very happy Small Business Week to all small and medium businesses in Canada, and specifically in the Bay of Quinte. Employing nearly 2/3 of the entire Canadian workforce, small businesses are struggling. Rising interest rates hammering bottom lines, the struggle to find employees, the need to invest in new technology, and costs of all items rising because of unjust inflation. Small businesses are now looking at a tripling of tax increases in 2023, but Conservatives won't stand for it. Farmers alone, many of them small business owners, pay an average of $45,000 to the carbon tax, but only receive $862 in rebates. 72% of Canadians think that their taxes are too high, and businesses do not need their taxes raised anymore. This Small Business Week, Conservatives pledged to fight to lower small business costs and taxes and to ensure that not just Canadians, but small businesses are put first. Their bottom lines, their savings, their businesses, and their country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, this month marks Women's History Month in Canada. It is a time to reflect on all of the incredible women who make our community proud. Whether by breaking barriers in areas like politics, business, arts and culture, and sports, we must celebrate them and reflect on their courage. Today is a Person's Day, marking the historic victory of the famous five who paved the way for women in public and politics. It is a reminder of the great progress we have made as a country. If it were not for their monumental steps, we may not see the 103 women in this chamber with us today. I want to recognize all women in leadership roles. Your success is a reminder to all of us about the potential we have to make an impact and change the world. Take a moment today to recognize the strong women in your life, because when women thrive, we all thrive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, on October 19th, the Cercle de Fermiers of Saint-Lucien will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. Since 1972, 68 members who founded the organization are still active in this remarkable group. They have done excellent work to share and transmit to future generations our cultural heritage. Our history is rich and it must be told. They are incredible ambassadors of our history. I wish to highlight the incredible work done by the president of the Cercle, Madame Franceline Leroux, who has done incredible work and who has created a space for the Cercle to work since 2019. It's good to know that Drummond can count on such incredible, passionate women who contribute to making Quebec and to make a better world for all of Quebec, and I wish them a fantastic future. The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, investing in small and medium-sized businesses in Canada creates prosperity for all. And it's not complicated. When we give people the means to make their dreams come true, we foster skills and innovation that grow our economy and create good jobs. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I want to salute the incredible work done by our regional development agencies and by our CDICs here in Quebec, which day in and day out help excellent businesses in my riding meet their entrepreneurial goals and help them promote our incredible region. Together, Mr. Speaker, we are building a green and prosperous economy, an economy which benefits all of us.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From coast to coast to coast, we are seeing record-breaking tragic overdose deaths. Conservatives believe that addiction is a health issue and must be treated as such, and we believe that there needs to be resources for treatment and a shift in our focus towards recovery. Alberta's drop in opioid-related deaths shows that recovery-oriented policy is working. According to experts, many push decriminalizing illicit drugs as a silver bullet. However, the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police have been clear that they do not support decriminalization without first having necessary prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery supports in place. Decriminalizing without the appropriate access to treatment and supports is akin to putting the cart before the horse. According to experts, we must do better. There is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, and we need a suite of programs and initiatives to address the crisis. But I think the most important thing that we need is to expand access to treatment and to focus our space on recovery. Recovery is possible.
The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, to celebrate the start of Small Business Week, I'd like to recognize the important work done by Guelph's Chamber of Commerce. Throughout their history, chambers have been focused on working collaboratively with local businesses on the main streets of every riding in Canada, connecting community partners and all levels of government to enhance the prosperity of all regions. The Guelph Chamber's many initiatives have supported the social, environmental and economic development of our community. We're also fortunate in Guelph to have a vibrant business community led by many women. As a former president of the Guelph Chamber myself, I know firsthand just how important this work is to our community, and I've been fortunate to work closely with them in my capacity as Member of Parliament on numerous occasions. I look forward to continuing to collaborate with them and our community partners to ensure economic recovery, housing stability, environmental progress, and social supports within our community. Thank you again to the Guelph Chamber of Commerce and to chambers across Canada for the important work you do for all of us.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the incredible work being done by the Hespeler Village BIA, community leaders, and local small businesses that have worked so tirelessly to make Hespeler what it is today. There is no better example of this growth than the Hespeler Village Market. I, like many residents of Kitchener South Hespeler, have bittersweet feelings about the arrival of fall, as it means the Hespeler Village Market is closed for another season. Started only in 2016, this urban farmers market focuses on building community connections and supporting local businesses. Every Friday afternoon and evening, rain or shine, local vendors set up shop in downtown Hespeler to create a place where everyone could come together and enjoy live music while doing their shopping and meeting neighbors. I ask this House to join me in acknowledging the contributions the Hesper Market has made to the connectedness and vibrancy of the community. While the summer market season has sadly drawn to a close, we look forward to seeing everyone back at the Hesper Market next spring.
The honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, there is a housing crisis in Canada. Too many first-time home buyers have given up on the dream of ever owning a home. Market rentals are hard to find. Affordable rentals are impossible to find. I've heard from housing providers and community groups all across the country who are so eager to help be part of the solution, but they are stymied over and over again by NIMBY municipal politicians and special interest groups who create delays, add costs, and often kill proposals for new homes. Worse yet, Mr. Speaker, are the community groups and housing providers that may have finally received their municipal approvals but get stalled by the bureaucracy at the CMHC. Despite billions and billions of dollars promised by this Liberal government, they have created a system where there are too many forms, too many requirements, too much red tape, an Ottawa knows best approach that actually makes it almost impossible to get grants or loans from the CMHC. We must say yes to building more homes. This crisis requires all levels of government and the private sector to work together to ensure that Canada becomes a country where everyone has the dignity of a home.
The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honor to rise today to recognize Small Business Week. I've always been impressed by the spirit of entrepreneurs and small business owners, many of whom invest their life in their dream business with the hope that their idea will become a success. One of these people in my community of Kingston and the Islands is Dave McNamara. Dave opened Union Kitchen and Cocktails months before the pandemic began. Despite the hardships that would follow, not only did Dave ensure the success of his new venture, but he went on to open another restaurant this past summer. An instant hit in the downtown Kingston area, Baja Craft Kitchen offers unique Mexican dishes. Business owners like Dave exist throughout our country. They are the backbone of our economy, and this week we salute their incredible grit and determination. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to add my voice of disgust at the shocking news that the Prime Minister knew about disgusting anti-Semitic hate that was being spread and funded by his government for a month before any action was even taken. The worst part, Mr. Speaker, he only took action after he got caught and exposed for doing nothing. Mr. Speaker, I may not be of Jewish faith, but as a Christian, as a voice in this House, and simply as a human being, I feel an obligation to call out and condemn this shameful silence. Why, Mr. Speaker, at a time when anti-Semitic acts here in Canada and around the world are on the rise, did it take a month for the Prime Minister to do anything? It is clear that he knew, and it is clear that he did nothing until he was caught. I stand with Jewish leaders in condemning the deafening silence of our Prime Minister. We need to be united in confronting anti-Semitism when we see it. Every single time. Shame on this government, Mr. Speaker, and shame on this Prime Minister.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Silence. This is what Canadians heard from the Prime Minister and the Minister of Canadian Heritage after it was discovered that more than $500,000 were granted in public contracts to a public anti-Semite, racist, and bigot. Silence. Deafening silence. This individual has tweeted some of the most heinous and vile things imaginable. He called Jewish folks human bags of feces. He said that they should be shot in the head. And I see a smirk across the way. Shameful. He labeled Black and Indigenous people house slaves. And he repeatedly called Francophone speakers frogs. This is who the government hired to teach about anti-racism. All of this horrific and shocking news was made evident. But what is perhaps most abhorrent is the fact that the Prime Minister did nothing for 1 month. A whole month of deafening silence.
L'honorable député d'Argenteuil.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La Petite Nation. Mr. Speaker, on October 11th, I had the pleasure of welcoming almost 100 participants to my economic development meeting in my riding of Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation. Participants joined us from the municipal, agricultural, and tourism sectors, from chambers of commerce, industry, and community organizations. I'd like to thank my colleague, the member for Hochelaga and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Diversity, and Inclusion for her participation, which was appreciated by all. As you know, getting our economy going again is a priority for our government, and I strongly believe that we need to work closely with key players from the business sector. The subjects that were discussed included the environment, tourism, agriculture, jobs, high-speed internet, funding for municipalities, housing, and the role played by economic development agencies. We had great discussions on local issues and on challenges that are specific to rural areas. It was helpful for us to better understand the issues. And in Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation, we are going to work on those issues, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt, Saanich-Sooke.
With the pandemic came a spike in calls to frontline agencies for help with domestic violence. And like the pandemic itself, that increase has not faded away. In previous Parliament and again this June, the Justice Committee unanimously recommended that the government bring forward legislation to make coercive and controlling behavior in intimate partner relationships a criminal offence, as one additional tool to help fight intimate partner violence. Unfortunately, when the government tabled its recent response, there was no sense of urgency. In Canada, we continue to see a woman killed by an intimate partner on average every 6 days. And coercive and controlling behavior is almost always a precursor to this physical violence. In the face of government inaction, New Democrats will be seeking other ways to make sure victims and survivors get access to the help they need, both improved access to support and making coercive and controlling behavior a criminal offence in my private member's bill, C-202. I ask all members of the House to continue to support concrete action to address the ongoing scourge of intimate partner violence in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, Quebec City isn't just a hockey city, it's also a baseball city. On September 18th, the Capitals of Quebec City won the Frontier League Championship in a 2-1 victory against the Schaumburg Boomers. Even though the Capitals have already won 7 championships, but in the Can-Am League, this victory is particularly special because it's their first season in the Frontier League. This is quite an entry into that league. Throughout the season, the players put on a spectacular show for their fans. And what can we say about the animation given by Cappy, their mascot? Cappy is always very generous when it comes to hugs. And my office manager can affirm that that is indeed the case. Everyone has spent memorable moments at their games. I'd also like to congratulate Patrick Scalabrini and Michel Laplante from the organization. We're already looking forward to next year. Bravo to the Capitals.
The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie, Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, who got rich? That's the question. The Prime Minister paid $54 million for a malfunctioning, intrusive, and economically destructive ArriveCAN app that developers have since shown could have been built over a weekend for less than $250,000. Canadians deserve to know the truth. They deserve to know what happened. Parliament's Government Operations and Estimates Committee will be investigating this scandal as to how taxpayers got taken to the cleaners by this costly cover-up. I'm calling on the Bloc, and especially my NDP counterparts, to help us find out which Liberal signed off on this epic case of greed and abuse, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, who got rich doing it.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Speaker, in 2016, Kim McDonald was diagnosed with breast cancer. Today, this Hamilton Mountain resident and popular Weather Network personality, this friend and fighter, is 5 years cancer-free. Kim did not emerge from this ordeal unscarred, but some would say she is now more more powerful. Through Breast Cancer Canada, Kim bravely shared her story and made her private struggle public. She bared her chest post-double mastectomy, and she showed us how those scars were transformed into gorgeous sunflower tattoos. Kim identifies with sunflowers because they stand strong and follow the sun. I am grateful to honor Kim today. To bring attention to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed in their lifetime, so get screened and ask questions. As someone who just lost her father to cancer, I want to thank Kim for being a shining role model, for standing strong, following the sun, and showing us what beautiful really means.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The government is increasing the cost of life. Inflation is deficits to the tune of $500 million, wasted for a lot of it, and printed. This all has increased the price of goods that we buy and the interest we pay. Inflation is taxes, increase the costs for our workers and our producers and businesses. Next year, Canadians will pay $3,000 more per year for this inflation caused by the Prime Minister. When will he inverse his inflationist policies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the leader of the Conservative Party truly wanted to help families who need help in these difficult times, they would no doubt support helping low-income families with rent assistance and dental care. But not only do they not support these measures, they're trying to block these measures in the House of Commons. It's one thing to disagree with our proposals to help families, but it's a different kettle of fish to try and hinder this assistance to those who need it. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Housing he's bragging about will go to almost no Canadians, and those who will get it will get at most $500. These days, you can't even rent a doghouse in the backyard for that amount of money. The reality is that this Prime Minister has presided over the worst housing bubble on planet Earth. UBS says that Vancouver is more overpriced than New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Los Angeles, all places with more people, more money, and less land. When will the Prime Minister get the gatekeepers out of the way and stop printing money to inflate our housing market?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Official Opposition makes a big show about being concerned about families, but if he actually wanted to support low-income families, he'd step up and support our measures to give more money to low-income families for the cost of dental care for their kids, or to help the 1.8 million Canadians who will benefit from our housing benefit, additional help on the housing benefit. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, not only does the Leader of the Opposition not support those measures to help low-income families with real money this fall, he's blocking their passage in the House, preventing anyone from getting that money.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is the Prime Minister that's blocking people from actually getting a house. It's $2,000 to rent an apartment in Canada these days, $1 million for a home in Toronto, an average place. And now he wants to make it more expensive to heat homes by tripling the carbon tax. Even the Liberal Premier in Newfoundland and Labrador has said that rural seniors will struggle to keep the heat on. Will the Prime Minister show some mercy for those people who are struggling to heat their homes and cancel his plan to triple the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition's obsession with attack politics means that measures that are focused on helping low-income families pay for the cost of dental care for their kids with an extra $1,300 over the next 2 years or an extra $500 for low-income renters that'll hit about 1.8 million Canadians across this country. Not only is he not supporting those concrete measures, like he flip-flopped, reversed himself and supported our GST credit that's supporting Canadians, he's not only not supporting dental and rental, he's actually blocking its passage in the House.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The question was about home heating. This Prime Minister wants to triple the tax on seniors for the crime of heating their homes in February. It is not a luxury to heat your home in Canada in the wintertime, yet the Prime Minister wants to punish people for doing it. 40% of Atlantic Canadians are living in energy poverty, yet the Prime Minister wants to hit them all with a big, fat tax hike. If he's not going to back down on his plan to triple the tax, will at least he have the decency to exempt home heating this winter from that tax hike?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's important that we, as we debate in this House, we ground ourselves in facts. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, an average family in this country receives more money from us pricing, putting a price on carbon pollution than they pay. It is support for families even as we fight climate change. In the Leader's own riding, families have received, including just last Friday with the latest check, a total of $550 because of the climate action incentive. We will continue to fight climate change. We will continue to put more money in the pockets of families.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
First of all, the Prime Minister is imposing this carbon tax hike on all 10 provinces and 3 territories. 6 provinces will not get any rebate at all. And even in the remaining 4, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has shown that the majority of people pay more in taxes than they get back in rebates. It's all been a falsehood. Furthermore, they haven't hit a single solitary climate target since they took office. And finally, it's a little rich for this Prime Minister to call little old ladies in rural Newfoundland and Labrador polluters for heating their home in the winter when he makes them pay for him to jet around and go to Costa Rica in the middle of the summer. Why won't he halt the high carbon hypocrisy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Opposition focuses on me, I will stay focused on Canadians. That's why we're moving forward with a price on pollution that puts more money in the pockets of average families, that doesn't help the wealthiest Canadians. And we know that the Conservative politicians on the other side of the aisle are always looking to give tax breaks and advantages to wealthy politicians. They still think trickle-down works. We're seeing across the Atlantic how that doesn't work. We have made investments in Canadians, supporting those most vulnerable and those in the middle class. We will continue to. Why are they continuing to block dental and rental supports for low-income Canadians?
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Yesterday we finally learned that the juicy contracts awarded to a Liberal donor at Roxham Road totaled $28 million. I say finally because we have been asking for this for a year. The government has for a year been dodging questions and refusing access to information requests for a year. And now under pressure it has finally revealed not the contracts but only how much the ones the media know about cost. Mr. Speaker, we know that there are other contracts, especially for hotels. If the government has nothing to hide, why is it refusing to reveal all the contracts linked to Roxham Road? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are making sure that our immigration and asylum strategy remains humane. That's why we made the necessary investments. The contract decision was made by public servants, as it was said yesterday in the committee. It is the CBSA that contacted the property owner. The contract included was signed for the only available service area. CBSA was already using it to process people who were irregularly crossing at Roxham Road. Negotiations were done based on just value to get a competitive price. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the government is hiding the contracts at Roxham Road under the guise, and hold on to your seats, of national security. This is nonsense. To sign untendered contracts under the guise of national security, the law requires that there be a catastrophe or a threat to life. Obviously, this has nothing to do with Roxham Road. Yesterday, the good Liberal donor who obtained $28 million in contracts revealed in committee that it was the government the government itself that insisted on inserting these clauses in the contracts to make them confidential. This is all very suspicious. Is a Liberal donor who received $28 million just the tip of the iceberg? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we heard at the committee yesterday, it's the Canada Border Services agencies that contacted the owner and negotiated the contract. This included the only land available given the circumstances, and the agency was already using it to intercept people who were crossing at Roxham Road. The contracts were negotiated at market value, and this was done in an independent way by public servants.
Burnaby South.
The Minister for Finance admitted that experts are no doubt right. We will have a recession here in Canada. But this government does not have a plan. We need a plan because people will suffer. People will find it hard to make ends meet. They will lose their jobs. So, will this government deliver a plan, or will it simply wait for people to start suffering before they finally act? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government has acted from the very beginning when we arrived this fall. The first thing we did was to table a bill to reduce GST or increase GST rebates to help Canadian families, 11 million Canadians. Conservatives supported this. Now we're continuing with dental care, with people with low income, and now we're moving forward with help for low-income renters. We know that there are other things to do, and we will continue to work to be here for Canadians. We will continue to work with all parliamentarians to deliver for those who are living difficult times.
Burnaby Sud.
But the government doesn't have a plan to deal with the recession. The Minister of Finance admits that one is coming, and we need a plan. Right now, the current EI system, the one brought in by the Conservatives, only covers 40% of Canadians. We need a plan that covers all Canadians. So will this government put into place a plan to deal with the recession that supports families and ensures that every worker in our country is covered if they lose a job?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government demonstrated time and time again over the past 7 years that we have Canadians' backs, whether it was with lowering costs whether it was lowering taxes for the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%, whether it was delivering a Canada Child benefit that has lifted millions of Canadians out of poverty. The things that we have done continue to focus on having Canadians' backs. Through the pandemic, we supported them with unheard of direct supports to manage to make sure not only Canadians kept safe, but our economy rebounded faster than other places, and we will continue to be there through the troubled waters ahead. We will be there for Canadians as we all.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Thanks to this Prime Minister, Canadians are sinking faster than ever as well. And as Canadians prepare for a harsh winter, Liberal inflation has driven up food, gas and utility costs for struggling families. The Ontario Energy Board estimates natural gas prices are rising 153% just this month. Families across Canada could see gas bills rise anywhere from 50 to 30%, and all because of this failed Liberal energy policies. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and end his plan to further punish Canadians for necessities and cancel the tripling of the carbon tax?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by congratulating the member for Calgary Forest Lawn on his new role as Conservative Finance Group. I'm sure we'll disagree about many things, but I also do believe there are issues where we will find common ground. One good example is Bill C-30, which will provide inflation relief payments to 11 million Canadian households. Thanks to unanimous support in this House, including from the Conservatives, I am very hopeful that bill will receive royal assent very, very soon.
Well, member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Liberal inflation is vaporizing any supports that they could even come close to giving, and the carbon tax will never be high enough for this costly coalition. In Calgary, the average gas bill is $170 a month, but because of failed Liberal policies, it can be anywhere from $300 to even more than $500 after the price increase. When the Prime Minister triples the carbon tax, it could make up 60% of just the heating bills alone. When will this Prime Minister finally stop draining Canadians' bank accounts and cancel the tripling of the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The only way to eliminate energy poverty and reduce household energy costs in Canada is by fighting climate change. With volatility of oil prices and record profit of oil companies, Conservatives are proposing Canadians be chained to the oil and gas markets and completely vulnerable to foreign wars and cartels. Our plan will give Canadians autonomy and sovereignty on their energy needs and their finances. Mr. Speaker, why do Conservatives want to let foreign oligarchs dictate Canadian household finances?
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit rich to hear the Liberals blaming foreign oligarchs for attacking the Canadian energy sector. Every day, we hear heartbreaking stories of Canadians struggling with the cost of living crisis caused by this Prime Minister's policies. Liberal inflation is forcing people to cut back on groceries, with many having to turn to food banks for the first time ever. Canadians are stretched beyond their limits, so will the Prime Minister finally do the decent thing and end his plan to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that the cost of living is a real challenge for many Canadians. And that is why I am so pleased that we were able to put forward a plan to double the GST tax credit that will provide nearly $500 to vulnerable Canadian families. And I am delighted all members of this House, including the Conservatives, have supported this plan. Now it's time to provide some more support. $500 to help the most vulnerable pay their rent. And let's get behind making sure that all kids in Canada under 12 can go to the dentist.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to Liberal policies, gas is up to nearly $2 a litre. Grocery bills are up 15%, and it now takes about half of a Canadian's paycheck to pay their housing costs, and the cost to heat those homes during a Canadian winter is about to rise up to 300%. Yet somehow the Prime Minister thinks that this is the time to propose Liberal tax hikes that will make everything more expensive. When will the Prime Minister stop making things worse and just end his plan to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And certainly I think one thing we can agree is it's important to address the affordability issues. That's exactly what we've been doing through doubling the GST tax credit and introducing dental care for children in this country. But with respect to the price on pollution, and it is a price on pollution, the honourable member knows that the average rebate, actually more families get more money back, 80% of families get more money back in this country than they pay. So this is not an issue around affordability. But let's be clear, if we want to ensure affordability in the long term, we have to address the climate crisis. The Leader of the Opposition has been campaigning for over 6 months. The words climate change have almost never crossed his lips. Where is his climate plan?
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what the Liberals don't understand is that the Liberal carbon tax has a real and direct impact on inflation. Mr. Speaker, winter is coming. What does that mean for Canadian families? It means that the cost of heating will rise, the cost of transport will rise, which will lead to higher food prices, 3 essential goods for Canadian families. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government refuses to lower taxes. Does the Prime Minister realise that his decisions are contributing to inflation? The Honourable Minister for Canadian Heritage. The Conservatives are showing us that they are the champions of austerity once again. It's all good, well and good to point fingers, but where would they enact their cuts? Would they cut help to kids who need help? Would they cut childcare? Would they would they cut help to seniors, to workers, to families? It's all well and good to criticise, but they don't have the courage to say what they would cut. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what we would have had done is to do what other G7 countries did, which is to lower taxes. Only this government has refused to reduce taxes, Mr. Speaker. It seems that when we are the only ones not to do so, it's perhaps that other people are right and we're wrong. All G7 countries has decreased taxes, but the government is refusing to do so. Why does the government refuse to reduce taxes, contributing to inflation? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the Conservatives want to limit what is being done. I'm sure that the Conservatives want to imitate what's happening in the United Kingdom. Maybe not the best of ideas. what was implemented here in Canada to help children, for example, the child care benefit, perhaps we should cut into that. The guaranteed income supplement to help our seniors, perhaps that is what the Conservatives would cut, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps they would cut help to workers. Once again, Mr. Speaker, it's all well and good to criticise and point fingers, but they need to stand up and say what they would do. The Honourable Member for Avignon-Métis-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, last week in Washington, the Deputy Prime Minister announced Canada's new foreign and energy policy to the world. She announced that Canada will now fast-track energy projects to export more oil and gas. Fast-tracking projects involves a number of things to move quickly. It can A, cut the environmental assessment, B, avoid consulting Quebec, the provinces and Indigenous peoples, C, bypass the whole question of social acceptability, or D, all of the above. What will she choose? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is determined to tackle the energy crisis in the world and is committed to tackling climate change. To do so, we are investing in good energy projects throughout the country. We are working directly with entrepreneurs and promoters to make sure that things are moving forward as rapidly as possible, and we are working to harmonise our regulations policies with provinces and territories. That being said, these projects will have to respect our climate ambitions and environmental ambitions and respect the rights of First Nations. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The Deputy Prime Minister's new policy of accelerating oil projects is already having an impact in Canada. Last week alone, we learned that a call for tenders has been issued for oil exploration in 100,000 square kilometres of ocean off of Newfoundland. However, these drillings are apparently exempt from environmental impact assessments. Mr. Speaker, is this part of Canada's new policy to fast-track oil projects, or is this just the same old Canadian habit of sacrificing the environment every time there is oil involved? The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Commission that made this recommendation is an independent one. Independent is a term that the Bloc Québécois should perhaps look up in the dictionary, Mr. Speaker, because it's not the federal government that made the recommendation. It's not the Newfoundland government. It's an independent commission that made that recommendation. All energy development projects will go through this rigorous evaluation programme with public consultations. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The Minister for the Environment, however, authorised the Bidunor oil project in Newfoundland, and then he was suggesting that it would be the last oil project to be approved. Well, but today, off the coast of Newfoundland, there is a new call for oil exploration. And it's aimed at serious entrepreneurs, Mr. Speaker. They have to commit to spending a minimum of $10 million each, and this on oil exploration in order to obtain their license in the first place. So these people pay a lot of money to be looking for oil because they expect to find it and then exploit it. How many more Northern Bay projects will the government want to find off the coast of Newfoundland? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak just for a moment about the green transition and of Canada's need to invest and attract private capital in this grand transition. To do so, we have to build more. This is a huge challenge that we have before us, and I believe that this needs to be a national project, a project for Quebec, a project for Canada. But to do so, we need to work.
Position. Environment Minister now says he doesn't like foreign oil oligarchs. Well, that's news, because I was beginning to think that OPEC was going to give this Prime Minister an outstanding achievement award for all that he's done to promote foreign oil interests by blocking the 15 proposed LNG projects that existed when he came to office. He has reduced Europe to its knees and turned it to be dependent on Putin. By blocking oil production here in Canada, he has prevented us from supplying ourselves and forced us to import more oil. Why won't they stop sending paychecks out and pollution up?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, Canada has worked very hard with our allies around the world to augment the production of oil and natural gas. We committed to increasing production by 300,000 barrels by the end of the day to help our allies in Europe. With respect to domestic energy security, here are the facts. When the Conservatives were in government, foreign oil imports were double what they are today. In fact, they've declined 80% from when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister of Canada. The facts speak for themselves. Under this government, more Canadians are using Canadian and North American energy. The member opposite, the leader opposite may not like it, but a fact is a fact.
Before going to the next question, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to remind, with the shuffling and everything that's gone around with the seats, those who are nearer to me, I can hear them pretty loud, so I'd ask them to tone down their outburst. They're not constant, but they're outbursts. Just keep them down. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Here's a fact for you. 15 LNG projects were proposed when this Prime Minister took office. 0 are completed. Even the one that we approved in our final days in office, he has still failed to bring to completion. And now, after the Prime Minister stood in the way of LNG Quebec and East Coast LNG projects, Europe is totally dependent on Putin to keep the heat on this coming winter, funding that war. And what has this government contributed? They've sent Putin back his turbines to help him pump his gas. Why are they funding Putin's war instead of paychecks for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just say that a fact is a fact. The projects that he is talking about were assessed under the Canadian Environmental Assessment Act 2012, which Stephen Harper took out all of the environmental protections. And one of the big reasons why these projects did not proceed is because they completely gutted the environmental assessment process. We have put in place better rules to ensure that good projects are going to get built in this country, and we are certainly moving in that direction. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the winter months are coming across the country, and Canadians are hesitating to turn on the heat. Why? Because they're already paying more for gas, they're already paying more for groceries, and now, thanks to this Prime Minister, more for home heating. In fact, in some cases, 300% more. So will this Prime Minister cancel his plans to triple the taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
It's interesting, Mr. Speaker, that they would talk about energy poverty, because when they were in power, you know the first thing that they did? They cut energy efficiency projects for the lowest income Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Hundreds of people were laid off. What did they... That's the first thing you did when you came into power in 2006, Mr. Speaker. Then what did they do? They eliminated subsidies to help Canadians buy electric vehicles. Then what did they do? They eliminated support for renewable energy projects, Mr. Speaker. So if there's energy poverty in this country, it's because of the Conservative Party were in power for 10 years.
Hear, hear.
I just...
Mr. Speaker.
One moment. Some of the comments have not been very parliamentary. I just want to remind the honourable members. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, under this Prime Minister, people can't afford to heat, eat, and live. Does he not realize that almost half of Canadians are $200 away from insolvency? And a recent report now indicates that families spend more on income taxes at 43% than they do on basic commodities at 35.7%. That means a young couple who emailed me from my riding, James and Debbie, cannot afford to put their little girl into skating. So will this Prime Minister cancel his plans to just increase their taxes?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. That's a gold star.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. That's why we have a plan to double the GST tax credit. And I am really glad all members of this House, including the members opposite, are supporting that plan. And Canadian families will be getting nearly $500 in inflation relief soon. Now it's time to get together, support the rental payments, support dental care for kids under 12. And by the way, I wish the members opposite would support for Edmonton families our great daycare plan, which is lowering the daycare costs for that family by 50% this year.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians want bold climate action, and workers want to know that they'll have good-paying jobs for the future. But the Liberals have failed to deliver. Instead, they're giving billions of dollars to rich oil and gas companies while workers and communities struggle. Unions, environmental organizations, and workers have been calling for a clear path forward, an industrial strategy, and investments in good, clean jobs. The global economy is already moving towards a clean energy future, and Canada is failing to keep up. My question is simple. Why is the Liberal government leaving Canadian workers behind?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And certainly I agree with the honourable member that we do need to have a proactive economic strategy that ensures Canada seizes the opportunities that will be created through a low-carbon transition. That is why we brought forward a critical mineral strategy, a hydrogen strategy. That is why we're working on regional energy and resource tables with most of the provinces and territories and eventually all of them. And certainly those are the conversations that the honourable member and I have been having as we've actually talked about a number of these issues, and I certainly look forward to continuing that work going forward.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Alberta workers delivered a very clear message to Ottawa today that the energy transition is happening and they need this Prime Minister to show up. We see that Biden is transforming the American economy with good-paying union jobs, and yet this Prime Minister has missed every climate target that he has set. Clean energy represents a $61 billion opportunity in Alberta. Now, we know the Alberta Conservatives would throw workers under the bus just out of ideological spite. But my question is to the Prime Minister, is he willing to work with the Alberta Federation of Labour on establishing their plan for a clean energy transformation?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member. And really, Mr. Speaker, we've been working with Labour across the country, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we're going to be the first country in the world to be producing green steel, green aluminium. We're working on green batteries, Mr. Speaker. And you don't need to look back very much. Just look at the announcement we did with Rio Tinto recently, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
Whilst they're going to be reducing their emission, the site in Seoul will be the largest site in the world to be producing titanium, Mr. Speaker, to be on the global market. And just recently, we've broke ground on the Dofasco plant in Hamilton, Mr. Speaker. We're going to be producing green steel that's going to be part of the car of the future. Mr. Speaker, the country is on the way to win at every step of the way.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, as the world grows darker, we are stronger together. Last week, the Minister of National Defence participated in a meeting of NATO defence ministers and visited Poland to address key challenges to our collective security, including increasing our support for our Ukrainian partners. Can the minister tell this House how Canada continues to step up and support NATO, as well as the brave Ukrainian military, fighting back against Putin's brutal and reprehensible attacks?
The Honourable Minister for National Defence.
Thank you for that excellent question, Mr. Speaker. Last week in Poland, I signed a memorandum of understanding strengthening the defense relationship with Poland and committed 40 Canadian Armed Forces engineers to help train Ukrainians. And then at NATO, I announced another tranche of military aid for Ukraine, including cameras for drones, satellite services, 155mm ammunition, and additional aid. Mr. Speaker, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in the short and the long term. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, at the Ethics Committee yesterday, the Liberals tried their darndest to convince us Mr. Gay, the recipient of $28 million in untendered contracts, had never met with members of the Liberal Party before getting those contracts. But we do know Mr. Gay attended at least 4 fundraising cocktail parties for the Liberal member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. will the Prime Minister admit that his member met this individual a number of times in contradiction with what the committee was told? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Prime Minister said, the contract was negotiated based on fair market value in order to get a competitive price. In yesterday's testimony, officials and Mr. Gay clearly indicated that Mr. Gay was approached by officials to negotiate a lease and that no political person was involved in the negotiations of that lease. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, what's clear is that Mr. Gay was awarded $28 million in contracts without tendering, and then they had the nerve at committee to do everything to say that there were no meetings with elected officials, but we know that he attended at least 4 fundraisers for the member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Is there a conflict of interest or not? And can anyone who's not a Liberal donor get a contract? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, the contract award has been clearly revealed by our department. The government has been delivering open and fair procurement processes while obtaining the best value for Canadians in all that our government is contracting in terms of the needs during the Roxham Road situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, for over a month, the Prime Minister's office knew that the public rantings of a known anti-Semite and then continued to fund them until they were caught. Shameful. This isn't incompetence, it's purposeful, and it condones the very real and growing anti-Semitism. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Heritage, and the Diversity Minister knew. They knew for a month, and they did nothing. And it's hard to imagine a month of silence of hate-fueled bigotry against any other group in this country. Who else knew? And why is no one on the other side being held accountable for promoting hate with Canadian tax dollars?
The Honourable Minister.
That this is a very important question. Anti-Semitism, hate, and racism have no place in our society. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, the anti-Semitic, vile and racist statements made by this individual and the organization are reprehensible and vile. The funding to this organization has been cut. Our government will never tolerate this hate, and we're implementing new measures to make sure this never happens again.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
It took 2 days to cut funding to Hockey Canada. It took 1 week to cut funding to the WE scandal. They condemn it now because they got caught, because the media asked them, because they couldn't hide it anymore. A month to do and say nothing about a racist anti-racism consultant they knew spewed public hatred. They continued to fund him for a month. Mr. Speaker, who's getting fired for this?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no doubt that the comments made by this individual and this organization are absolutely appalling, and we condemn the anti-Semitism, racism, and hatred that he has spread over a number of years. I want to thank my colleague, the Member of Parliament for Mount Royal, for bringing this individual to our attention. When this issue was raised, we immediately asked the department to confirm the project funding details and to inform us on the procedural next steps. After the review, we followed the process in place, cut the funding to this organization, and demanded the money back.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, almost 9 months ago, trucked convoys were heading for Ottawa, having announced their intent to lay siege to the city. Yesterday, we learned that hotel operators saw this coming all along. They warned the city of Ottawa that in the midst of a pandemic, 15,000 people were trying to book every last hotel room in town for 3 full months. So in the end, it was just the feds who didn't see it coming. When the government says they were in constant communication with the city of Ottawa before the trucks arrived, what are they talking about? What were they talking about, if not that? Were they sharing recipes? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, we invoked the Emergency Measures Act because it was an unprecedented situation. And the evidence before the Commission shows that families were disrupted, young people, families, people needing cancer treatment, people with very serious medical issues. And that is why we managed the situation. We added resources with the RCMP and the City of Ottawa, and now we'll cooperate with the judge to learn all the lessons that need to be learned. Thank you. The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. They didn't manage the crisis. There was a total absence of federal leadership, and that's what Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson demonstrated to the Commission today. He spoke personally with the Prime Minister on January 31st, day 3 of the crisis, to request police backup. Then he spoke personally with the Minister of Public Safety on February 3rd. It took another 3 weeks for Ottawa to act. 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker. If it was so urgent enough to proclaim emergency measures, why did it take 3 weeks to mobilize the police? It's urgent, but there's no rush. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect for my colleague, the record is very clear. We managed this blockade, this illegal blockade from the outset with the RCMP and all the police resources we had and that we needed. And now we will cooperate with the Commission to learn all the necessary lessons, because the situation was very serious and we invoked the Emergency Measures Act because it was necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, last year the average family spent 36% of their income on basic necessities like food, shelter, and clothing. Do you know what percentage was spent on taxes? 43%. That's over $40,000 per household. And this Prime Minister is planning on tripling the carbon tax, further penalizing families to purchase their basic necessities. The Prime Minister is also planning a payroll tax increase on January 1st. Will he recant and offer some relief to struggling Canadian families?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that EI contributions are how they insure themselves in case they lose their jobs. Mr. Harper understood that too, which is why the EI contribution rate was higher in every year he was Prime Minister than it is this year and than it will be next year. Here is what the Globe and Mail had to say about the EI debate we've been having in Parliament. And I quote, the Finance Minister's, quote, math is impeccable. As for the Leader of the Opposition, the Globe and Mail said about his EI claims, quote, his claims are misleading.
Honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian families can no longer afford this Liberal government. Right. The average Canadian family now spends more on taxes than it does on the basic necessities of food, clothing, and shelter. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister spent $12,000 of taxpayer money on groceries in a single month when Canadian families are skipping meals to pay their grocery bills. So when will this Prime Minister do the right thing and cancel the January 1st tax increase on Canadians' paychecks?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister.
Conservatives in this House have the opportunity to do the right thing right now. There is a bill before this House that would see Canadian children in low-income households have access to dental care. There is a bill before this House that would see low-income renters have access to rental support. Mr. Speaker, on this side, on the government side, we have been there consistently for families since we were elected in 2015. I hope we can count on the Conservatives who claim to care about Canadian families join us in these instances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses are being buried under layers of red tape and tax hikes by the Liberals. Take onions. It's now cheaper and easier to import onions from Turkey than buy Canadian. Wow. First, there's the red tape. Canadian onion exporters face inspection delays and costs, and then there's the carbon tax, which also drives up costs and makes Canadian onions more expensive than those shipped from around the world. The Liberals are making Canada one of the worst places to compete in the global marketplace. Will the Prime Minister end his plan to triple the carbon tax on Canadian small business.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I welcome that question from the member opposite. First of all, in terms of making Canadian businesses competitive, we are aggressively pursuing trade agreements around the planet to diversify our supply chains. Secondly, what we're doing with respect to small businesses is empowering inclusive trade, which means supporting women entrepreneurs with a $6 billion program. It means empowering black entrepreneurs with a $200 million program. It means supporting Indigenous people on this land so they can reach their economic potential. We will continue that work because we know what is best for inclusive businesses is best for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Yukon.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate my colleague, the Minister of National Revenue, on the important announcement she made last Friday on community volunteer income tax programs. Can the Minister tell us more about the enhancement of this federal grant for organizations that help people get the credits and benefits they're entitled to? Particularly for organizations that serve Northern and Indigenous communities. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for Yukon for his kind words and for his work. Yes, there are 2 new funds available, more funds in recognition of the unique challenges of Indigenous and Northern organizations. Organizations that help people file tax returns to get the credits and benefits they're entitled to. We will continue to do what's necessary to improve access to credits and benefits. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins, Lévis.
Lévis.
Well put, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. According to a recent survey, 85% of Quebecers had to change their habits to cope with the rising cost of living in 2022. They talked about reducing travel, choosing discount brands, or postponing renovations. They're struggling to keep their heads above water, and instead of helping them, this government wants to go after an even bigger chunk of their paychecks. Will the Prime Minister commit today to scrapping the plan to raise taxes? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, our government understands full well that many Canadians are struggling with affordability and the cost of living. That's the reality. And that is why I'm very pleased that all members of this place have decided unanimously to support our plan to provide inflation relief payments. This is an important moment. Now it's time to take the next step together, and that is the rental and dental care benefits.
River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Northerners are facing unaffordable gas, groceries, and home heating bills. I was in Inuvik recently. 2.5 liters of orange juice was over $21.
Wow.
Ground beef was over $16 a kilogram, and Kraft dinner was over $3 a box. Liberal inflation and carbon taxes are already punishing Northerners, and it will soon be impossible for them to afford it. On behalf of all Northerners, will this Prime Minister end his plan to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister for Northern Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for the very important question. I was in Inuvik as well about 6 weeks ago, and there I announced $163 million of new money for Nutrition North program. The program moves beyond a simple subsidy for Nutrition North. It offers a new community food programs fund directly to support community-led food initiatives. We are providing more funds directly to Indigenous partners through the Harvester Support Grant, increasing traditional country foods for our partners.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, there is a simple answer to this problem. They could end the carbon tax. Experts are warning that Canadians could see heating costs double this winter. As we brace for the winter months, Canadians will be paying more to heat their houses, gas up, and stock the fridge due to out-of-control inflationary spending from this Liberal government. Canadians are going to need more than just hot air from the members opposite to stay warm this winter. So will the Prime Minister end his plan to triple the taxes on groceries, on gas, and on home heating.
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said previously, I think we can all agree that affordability challenges facing Canadians are very, very important. That is why we're moving forward with the GST tax credit. That's why we're moving forward with dental care for children in this country. It is also important, though, for the honourable member to understand that the direct rebate to families that are paying the carbon tax are greater for 80% of the families than what they actually pay. It actually works to help with affordability. I would also say we have to take into account the future cost of inaction on climate change. Absent urgent action, those costs will be $25 billion by 2025, $100 billion a year by 2050. For the sake of our children, we need to take action on climate change.
The Honourable Member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, small and medium-sized Indigenous businesses across the country experienced great volatility during the pandemic. With the federal government's support, many were able to stay in operation by taking advantage of loans through the COVID Indigenous business initiatives. As the economy continues to rebound and companies recover, could the Minister of Indigenous Services please update this House on what measures are being made available to support Indigenous businesses?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for caring about the success of small businesses, and in particular Indigenous small businesses who are equally hit hard during the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, we've announced that we will be providing 50% loan forgiveness for Indigenous small businesses across this country. That's about 3,800 small businesses, Mr. Speaker, that will go on to hire friends and family and neighbours and continue to grow our economy here in Canada. Mr. Speaker, I'm thankful for all small businesses, including those run by Indigenous people here in Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, this government was asked a very clear question about support for Alberta workers. Their answer was insulting, so I'm going to ask it again. Yeah. Will the minister support the Alberta Federation of Labour's plan for a future economy? Albertans are tired of empty words and no action. There is a massive opportunity for good-paying union jobs, and Alberta workers risk getting left behind because of this government's inaction. We need this government to commit real dollars and take real action now. Where's the plan for Alberta workers? Where are
the Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would underline the fact that I actually was in Calgary just a couple weeks ago meeting with the Alberta Federation and a number of the unions in Alberta talking about exactly these issues. I would say that there was an enormous amount of agreement in terms of the need to actually develop an economy that is going to be strong, create jobs and economic opportunities. We are working very directly with Labour in Alberta. We're working actually very directly with some of your colleagues, and you may want to talk to them about that, to ensure that we are moving forward in the right way.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have apparently spent $28 million on renting land and premises near Roxham Road. $28 million in secret. Instead of suspending the Safe Third Country Agreement to streamline the process for refugee claimants, the Liberals have chosen instead to funnel millions of taxpayer dollars to a Liberal donor without so much as a call for tenders. Because, after all, for a Liberal, a crony's a crony, right? When will the Liberals suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement, which the NDP has been calling for years? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the contracts in question were negotiated based on fair market price in order to get a competitive rate. They were chosen because of the proximity to the border. It was the ideal location for the CBSA to operate from, and our supply and procurement process is open, transparent, and fair, and we get better value for Canadians that way. Thank you. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today.
Draw attention of the members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Natalie Jameson, Minister of Education and Lifelong Learning and Minister responsible for the status of women for the province of Prince Edward Island. Comme il est 15h12,
it being 12 after 3, pursuant to the order made on Thursday, June 23rd, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at second reading stage of Bill C-22.
La question est la suivante.
The question is the following one.
By Mr. O'Regan, moved that Bill C-22, an act to reduce poverty and to support the financial security of persons with disabilities by establishing the Canada Disability Benefit and making a consequential amendment to the Income Tax Act, be now read a second time and referred to the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. La période de 10 minutes.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started.